Redskin offense. You go back through his career in games in December and January, regular season games, and he's the kind of guy that not only gets stronger as the game goes on very often, but stronger as the year goes on with 115 yards.
That of all good backs. As the season goes and the weather starts to change, they get stronger, they get better. I feel that as the game goes on, they get stronger and they get better, and that's an indicator to me of great running back.
Collins, and that pass is good for 14 yards as he hits Antoine Randall L for a first down, and Marcus McCauley is there to make the stop.
Isn't Collins something? I mean, a guy that was 10 years between starts, and you know, in this Redskins system, if you're not the starter, you don't get any practice reps either. So I think he was saying the other night, like in 10 or 12 years, I think he had 5 practice reps with the starting offense.
Yes. And this will be Portis up to the 39, and one of the reasons they were able to get Todd Collins, and Al Saunders came over as the associate head coach, in effect the offensive coordinator. He had been the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Trent Green was the quarterback, but as you look at Al Saunders, Collins was the backup, so Collins knew as well as anybody Saunders' system.
Yeah, and then Joe Gibbs was so impressed with his owner, Dan Snyder, letting him have 2 veteran, expensive quarterbacks in Mark Brunell and Todd Collins. And how many owners would do that?
2nd and 5 as Collins steps up, and that's caught by Portis out in the flat, and he will not get the first down. Stopped a yard shy at the 43-yard line.
As Joe said, you know, he's been in this league so long, and he knows one thing: you can never have too many quarterbacks. And then in Joe's thinking, you know, he said you can never have too many veteran quarterbacks. So when everyone else would say, boy, I'd love to have a veteran quarterback like a Mark Brunell or a Todd Collins, Joe Gibbs says, I want both of them. Dan Snyder gave them both of them.
He gave them both, and didn't want to let that graphic go by without pointing out that over 7 passes in 10 years. There are guys who throw that in a half. Mike Sellers is able to pick up the first down on short yardage here. And that's going to take us to the 2-minute warning. 2 minutes to the half in Minneapolis, with the Washington Redskins trying to make it 3 in a row and break the Vikings winning streak at 5, leading 16-0.
NASN brings you unrivaled coverage of the best sports North America has to offer. Get the best seats in the house for the biggest games in the best leagues 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Watch the NFL from preseason all the way to the playoffs, with over 60 regular season games, the postseason, and live coverage of Super Bowl 42 from Phoenix. Get live coverage of every game of the World Series, and don't miss an inning of the MLB regular season, with up to 260 regular season games and the All-Star Game live. Experience the most comprehensive coverage of the NHL anywhere in Europe, with over 200 live regular season games, the 2008 NHL All-Star Game, and the Stanley Cup Finals live. NASN takes you to pit lane in the high-octane world of NASCAR with live Busch Series racing, and keeps you up to date with the Nextel Cup and Truck Series with daily episodes of NASCAR Now. Get courtside with the best conferences in NCAA college basketball, with a packed schedule of games between the top teams and unrivaled coverage of March Madness. See the power and skill of the finest players in college football, with full season and bowl series coverage, including all the BCS games, live. And with all your favorite news, highlights, and analysis shows, including PTI and Around the Horn, you won't miss a minute from any of your favorite sports all season long. Log on to NASN.com now and join the world of NASN, your leader in North American sports.
At the 2-minute warning, a reminder to keep it here for the Sunday Night Football NFL halftime report. We'll have the fastest 3 minutes in football, all the highlights from Week 16. Also your fantasy leaders. For now, back to Minneapolis.
Down into any ground. First and 10 from the 45-yard line. 2 minutes to play in the opening half. Collins deep down the right sideline, and that is Moss who gets free. Flag comes in at the end. He might have stepped out of bounds, and that's why the flag came down.
And that's why the hat is off. When you see an official with a hat off, that means he threw his hat when the guy went out of bounds, and you're right, that's exactly what happened. It was a cover 2, the corner came up, and he tried to get away from the corner, probably stepped out of bounds.
Illegal touch of the pass. Number 89, offense. Went out of bounds, came back in, was the first to touch. 5-yard penalty, repeat first down.
Hats, flags, or beanbags.
Right, the hat comes out. See, McCauley does a good job there of getting up and then bumping him and then pushing him out of bounds. And now you can't go out of bounds and come in and be the first guy to touch the ball. Good play by Marcus McCauley. And the receiver, you can't get that close to the sideline so that a guy can push you out of bounds. You have to bring your split in a little.
First and 15. Collins is going to set up the screen. This time he sets it up to Betts. And Betts up to the 44-yard line. And it will be second down and long.
I'm impressed with Todd Collins and just the way he has control of this game. And you just feel that he knows the offense, and he has a command of the offense, and he has a command in the huddle, and probably most importantly, he has a command of this game.
He looks like a savvy 36-year-old veteran. Second down and 11. Sets up the screen again. This time it's Portis with blocking, and Sharper makes the tackle, but not until he picks up the first down. He stays in bounds. They have all 3 timeouts, and we have 66 seconds to play in the half as Washington spends its first TO. Next week we'll be in Indianapolis for the game between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. It's huge. On the Toyota halftime show, the guys will take a look at the biggest moments from this week. They'll preview the game next week, which is huge. Tennessee wins and they're in, loses and they're out. A lot of questions now in regard to, with Indianapolis having nothing at stake, already with a number 2 seed, how much will Peyton Manning play? The impact of that, Tony Dungy and his thoughts about that, and the guys will mull that and hash that over on the Toyota halftime show coming up.
That'll be a good mull, because that's always a thing, and you have the integrity of the game, I think, where you say, you have to play to win the game, and then you have the thing is no one can tell me what to do. I can play it any way I want to.
First and 10, and that's caught by Antoine Randall, and he'll step out of bounds, and that'll save a timeout here, and it's a first down to the 30-yard line.
You see how far Marcus McCauley was off? I mean, that is just a gimme. Anytime you see something like that, you see a corner that far off, and you can run it out. I mean, by the time he runs the out, McCauley is still 5 yards off. I don't know that Randall Elton would turn that thing up and then over, at the end of the half, but we're still over a minute.
Right. Collins. And again, this time the screen cannot get set up. He's got a pair of Vikings knocking Sellers down on the play. It'll be second down and 10 with 57 ticks remaining. Sunday Night Football being brought to you by UBS, a global powerhouse focused on the big financial issues. Yours. By Wendy's, hot and juicy burgers that are made to order. That's right. By Levi's, the original. Find your fit at Levi.com. And by Sirius, hear every NFL game on Sirius Satellite Radio, the best radio on radio. Second down and 10. The ball is at the 30-yard line for the Washington Redskins against this 4-man front. And they run a draw. Portis, ton of room. First down, takes it to the 15-yard line. They have 2 timeouts, and they will use their second timeout here. Timeout Washington. First down at the 15-yard line.
Before the game, when we started, I was saying that I'll take Joe Gibbs in a situation like this. And don't you just feel that the Redskins are playing harder than the Vikings are, and they're playing faster than the Vikings are, and they came in here in this first half and just took it to them?
pretty much the same way you felt, John, and I agree with you last week at the Meadowlands. I mean, Washington came in and played much better than the Giants. Were completely into the game, and that's the same situation as we have here tonight.
Right, and I give a lot of credit to that to Joe Gibbs. I mean, he's been in these situations. I mean, he's been in games where you have to win to get into playoffs. He's been in playoff games. He's been in Super Bowls. In fact, his well, it's not the last time he was there. He's been here one after, but he won a Super Bowl here in this stadium against the Buffalo Bills. But he knows how to get teams there, and then he knows how to do something when they get there.
First and 10 at the 15-yard line. Gonna toss back to Portis. He's going to throw, and wide open is Randall for the touchdown.
He knows how to coach him.
Doesn't he?
That's what I'm saying. You need a play, he just pulls one out of there.
The irony is, they were talking about, Joe Gibbs and using senility in the same sentence after he called the double timeout, which set up an easier field goal for Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. But then they beat Chicago, they beat the Giants, and right now it is 22-0 going on 23 as we go to the half. Sean Sweezum will attempt the extra point, but first a timeout is taken by
timeout.
Washington, as they decide they want to go for two.
Watch this. I mean, this is something you fake to the fullback, you throw it out there to Portis. Dwight Smith, the safety, comes running up. Marcus McCauley, the corner, comes running up. Randall L is wide open. That's one of the things that I didn't say about Clinton Portis. I said, he can run with the ball, and he's a good receiver. He can run screen passes. He's a good blocker. And I forgot that fourth thing. He's a pretty good thrower, too.
Meanwhile, 3 out of 3 lifetime for 3 touchdowns. Apart from that, not much. 3 for 5 for 3 touchdowns, 47 yards total. And the guy who caught it, Antoine Randall L, is another guy, former quarterback in Indiana, who can throw about as well as any non-quarterback in the league. 2-point conversion attempt here. Then Collins will throw. It's juggled and it's not caught. So that is unsuccessful, intended for Cooley. 44 seconds remaining in the half when Minnesota gets the ball back, and it's 22-0. It's great. I mean, the stories are just phenomenal as the seasons progress. Todd Collins, he's the guy. I mean, everybody would, you'd say, well, who's the backup quarterback or the number 3 quarterback? Todd Collins. Is he still playing? Yeah, he's still playing, I guess.
Yeah, and then he came over with Al Saunders from Kansas City, and like we're just saying, Joe Gibbs has 2 veteran backups in Todd Collins and Mark Brunell, and then when Campbell goes down, he needs those guys, and Todd Collins comes in, and rather than looking like a guy who hadn't started in 10 years, looks like a guy who had been starting for 10 years.
The other thing about Washington, of course, the whole season revolves around the death of Sean Taylor. Taylor dies. The team is absolutely distraught. I mean, they're still mourning the loss. They lose a heartbreaker to Buffalo. They have to go to a funeral. They have a short week. And I think it's just amazing what the staff has done and what the players have done. And I think that the organization, led by Dan Snyder, handled that situation about, it's a horrible thing to have to go through. But if there's a model for handling that as Snyder walks toward the back of the booth, I think they set it.
Well, they did, and I think that Joe Gibbs, I've known Joe for so many years. I started out coaching with him, and he knows how to do those things too. If you look at his Super Bowl wins, I think he won 2 of them during a strike year. Which is adversity, getting guys back, getting them playing again, those kinds of things. He's an expert at that.
Allison up to the 17. Yeah, one was a truncated season back in '82. The other was when they had the players walk out and they played with replacement guys. And well, John, you're a guy who knew how to win at the end of the season as well. Lombardi, Mike Sherman would be there. Take a look at that. Madden, Walsh, and Gibbs.
Right,
pretty good collection.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be in any group with those people. But
yeah, Mike Sherman's particularly happy about being on that list.
Yeah. But I mean, Joe just knows how to do it, and I have as much respect for him as I do anyone in this league.
Fake throw, and then they give the ball to Chester Taylor, and he gets banged down at the 18-yard line, and the crowd expresses its extreme displeasure at the way the Minnesota Vikings have gone through this first half on a night when, if they win, they're in, but if they lose, they open up the door about as wide as you can, because Washington would have to go home and beat Dallas, with Dallas having nothing at stake, and they're not even going to run a play. They'll just let the clock run down and talk it over and try to regroup at the half. The Washington Redskins,
well, the Vikings don't look much like a playoff team, and right now they are getting beat badly by a team that wants their spot. The Redskins leading 22-0 in Minnesota at the half. Keep it here. The NFL Halftime Report is coming up on Sunday Night Football on ESPN. It has been all Washington Redskins tonight. They come in needing a victory to keep their playoff hopes alive, and if they can get one, they can control their own destiny. Vikings controlling their own destiny coming in, but getting beaten to the punch all first half long. Let's go back to the first Vikings possession. Tavares Jackson, for the second straight game, making big mistakes. Picked off by Fred Smoot. Smoot will bring it all the way back to the 8-yard line of Minnesota. They would score a touchdown on fourth and goal, but it would be overturned, giving the Vikings the ball on their own half-yard line on their first play after that. Tony Richardson stacked up in his own end zone. Safety Washington up 2-0. On the next possession, Todd Collins. A little bit of a designed roll here. Finds Chris Cooley behind everybody. 33 yards for the touchdown. Washington went up 9-0 after the extra point. That was the score in the second quarter. Todd Collins again, looking for Santana Moss off play action. Marcus McCauley playing for the injured Antoine Winfield. Gets out jumped for the ball by Santana Moss at 16-0. They weren't done. How about the halfback option? Clinton Portis to Antoine Randall, 15-yard touchdown pass, and Washington led it 22-0. They're doing whatever they want to the Minnesota Vikings. They have shut down the Vikings running game, and Tavares Jackson is making mistake after mistake. A quarterback comparison here. Collins, spectacular. 15-21 for 178 yards in the 2 scoring tosses. Tavares Jackson, 7-11 for only 50 yards. He has thrown 2 interceptions. Talked about that Redskin defense. They are stacking up on Adrian Peterson. 5 carries for 4 yards. And Jackson is unable to make the Redskins pay with the pass. Clinton Portis, solid but unspectacular numbers. 10 carries for 39 yards. He's thrown a touchdown pass, though, and he's also caught 5 balls for 48 yards. A look at the team stats. Well, the points, that tells the story. Neither team running the football particularly well, but the Redskins passing it all over this Vikings defense. They've converted 4 of their 9 third downs and have 12 first downs to the Vikings 3. The big number, though, those 3 Minnesota turnovers. They've lost a fumble, and Tavares Jackson has thrown 2 interceptions. They had major turnover problems last week, but were able to overcome it against Chicago, and it's not been the case so far against Washington. We're ready to start the third quarter. We'll send it out to Al Michaels.
Have been made by the Washington Redskins. Al Michaels, John Madden, Andrea Kramer. Back to the Metrodome again to set the scene. If the Vikings win tonight and they're down 22-0, they would get into the playoffs, and Washington and New Orleans would be eliminated. But if the Redskins win tonight and then go home and beat Dallas in a game in which Dallas has nothing at stake next week in D.C., the Redskins go in and the Vikings and the Saints go out. And what the Saints would need is for the Redskins to win tonight, and so far that's looking pretty good. But then they're going to need help next week in terms of Minnesota losing to Denver and Washington losing to the Dallas Cowboys. Here we go. Minnesota's going to get the ball to start the second half as Sweezum sends it to the north end zone. Andre Allison with a good run back, and the kicker Sweezum will knock him out of bounds, and you saw the flag come flying in at the end of the play. David Herron, I think, is going to be called for the hold, and that's Mike Sellers, the big bruising fullback, hybrid tight end fullback, playing the old Joe Gibbs H-back role, and
Number
a key
58
man on special teams,
10-yard penalty, first down.
who goes down, and that penalty was on David Herron, number 58.
Yeah, Joe Gibbs was talking about Mike Sellers. Here you see him. He's number 45. He just takes on the wedge, and he really gets double teamed. I mean, he took on two of their biggest guys. I mean, watch right there, and then he just gets knocked right back. But Joe Gibbs was saying last night that Mike Sellers is one of the most valuable guys on his team as a blocker, receiver, H-back, fullback, tight end, special teams guy.
And it doesn't take him long to get the card out either, as Sellers is still down 6 seconds into the third quarter.
See every BCS game live and exclusive on NASN. The Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and the BCS National Championship game live from New Orleans. The Bowl Championship Series live this January on NASN.
Were kneeling down and saying a prayer for Mike Sellers, and he's back on the bench.
He's one of the favorite players of the other players on this team, and he's one of those guys that's kind of a football player's football player. Anything that has to be done in a game, Mike Sellers is a guy that'll do it.
And now after the penalty, Minnesota starts from back at its own 26-yard line, and they'll start with Peterson, and they're going to need Adrian or Taylor to get on track, something that hasn't happened in the first half. The pulse of the game, Todd Collins. Last week, 4 out of 18 in the first half. Tonight, much better. The Vikings have turned the ball over 3 times, 2 interceptions and a fumble. The rushing attack has done nothing. And the Redskins, with Clinton Portis throwing a touchdown to Antoine Randall L, roll up 22 points and lead 22-0. Second down and 7 with the ball at the 29-yard line. And busting through, and finally we see a little bit of the Adrian Peterson you hear about. Adrian Peterson out to the 48-yard line, and by far their best run of the night.
You know what the Vikings did that time, and it probably had to be a halftime adjustment. Watch this, they go 3 wide receivers. So they spread the Redskin defense out a little. There's still an extra guy, but Adrian Peterson can beat that guy. That's not a bad move. You know, instead of going tight, just go the opposite. They're doing it again here. You can see that they're in 3 wide receivers and get another defensive back off and out of the formation.
18-yard gain, ball at the 47-yard line. They're going to try it again, and this time he gets knocked down at the line of scrimmage. That's Randall Godfrey who gets into the action. That Washington defense, by the way, Reed Dowdy is still not in the game, and now he's going to come in right now. He didn't start the second half, but he'll come in right now. They have Lee Torrance and Vernon Fox taking his spot at safety.
So it's interesting. A lot of times you try and run, you'll put an extra tight end or an extra lineman, or go 2 tight ends. Go this type of formation. The Vikings on those first few plays went the opposite.
2nd and 8, and it's a pass to the slot receiver, Troy Williamson. Williamson gets the ball to the 46-yard line, and it will be 3rd down and 3.
Someone came up with an idea at halftime. Let's give them pass formations and give them run formations and try and pass, because if they're adjusting to formations, then we can take advantage of their adjustment.
Third and a long 2 from the gun. With Taylor in the backfield. And they're going to shovel it to Taylor. And Taylor's going to try to turn it back up. And he can only pick up about 1.5 yards. So the Vikings will have a decision to make here. And when you're down by 22, I think you go for it on 4th and 1 at this spot.
Yeah, I think they've already made that decision, and they send Adrian Peterson back in there with what you call heavy personnel, your lead fullback and the 2 tight ends, and you're going to just either quarterback sneak it or run Adrian Peterson in there. Adrian Peterson isn't as deep as he normally is.
And they give it to Peterson, and he's not going to get it. He's going to get stacked up. They had him going in behind Richardson. That's London Fletcher and LaRon Landry who are there, and Minnesota will turn it over on downs. The Washington Redskins, it's been their night. 22-0.
It used to be easy to name college football's greatest play. But now there's a new contender to the crown.
Throws it over the middle, complete to Thompson. Thompson looking for a block. He laterals it to Curry, and Curry laterals it again, and it's caught again. And Tomlin now on the lateral, and now the lateral to Thompson, and he laterals it back to Maddox on the other side. Maddox looking for a block. He fakes the lateral to Curry. Now he laterals it to Curry. Curry's at the 49-yard line. He's dancing around. He throws it back now to Maddox, who throws it across the field to Barmore. Barmore looking to run. He's looking for a block. He's got a convoy. He's going to throw it to Thompson. Thompson's at the 30-yard line. Thompson now laterals it back to Curry at the 35. They're running out of spaces. Curry fakes. He's going to lateral it to Tomlin. Tomlin's got a chance to go. Tomlin's got a chance to go. He laterals it. Now he's going to go to Maddox. Maddox at the 30-yard line, and now it's a lateral, and Curry's still going.
No way!
Curry's
No way!
It's a touchdown!
It's a touchdown!
Scores! The game is over!
See all the best college football action live on NASN.
So Adrian Peterson can't pick up the first down. He had that one run for 18 yards. Apart from that, he's gained 9 yards on his 8 other carries. Redskins take over on downs, and Collins off the play fake will throw to the outside. And you've got Brian Kozlowski making the catch for a gain of a couple. We go to Andrea.
Well, guys, for the Redskins, Mike Sellers is out with a concussion and wasn't happy about it. Tried to argue with the medical crew about going back in. Now, you've talked so much about Clinton Portis' toughness. Not only was he dehydrated and had to get an IV before the game, but he sprained his right ankle before the half, had it taped at halftime. Now, also at halftime, I asked Vikings head coach Brad Childress if he would change quarterbacks. He said no way under any circumstances.
The backup quarterback was Brooks Bollinger, the former Jet. And this is Portis stopped at the line of scrimmage. So, you know, it's not as if you're going to somebody who has a proven track record and a hot hand and all of that. So he's going to stay with Jackson, John.
Yeah, and Jackson has to get going. I mean, and again, I think they still have to, you know, think in terms of getting a first down and then getting that first score. Because there's no plays that are going to get you 22 points. So you have to think of getting something going, and they haven't been able to do it all night. I mean, they've been completely dominated by this Redskin team in all areas.
Right now they need a defensive stop on 3rd down and 6 from the 48-yard line. Collins is under pressure, but hangs in the pocket, throws, caught by Randall L. to the 31-yard line. So Antoine Randall L., who didn't catch a ball last week in the victory at the Meadowlands, has been a key man tonight as he makes his 4th catch. He's also scored a touchdown and picks up a first down on a 20-yard reception.
Well, that's the Vikings are trying to come on a blitz. They have the 2 inside linebackers crossing. The Redskins offensive line do a great job of picking it up and giving Todd Collins time to find Randall L.
On the 32-yard line on first down. Collins. A lot of time, and then the catch is made by Moss. And now you've got Moss healthy and Randall L healthy, and the Redskins just seem to be hitting on all cylinders at this point, and leading 22-0 and driving right now. And Moss is having a big night as well. Moss has now made a couple of catches for 37 yards.
And they're putting him on the strong side where they can't give McCauley any help. And we talked about the rookie Marcus McCauley, knowing when the Redskins saw him starting that they were going to go in that area. Santana Moss on McCauley.
3 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown from Moss tonight. And now Betts will take it to the 14-yard line behind Kozlowski. Some of the key Redskins tonight and what they've been doing through the course of the game. We start with Collins with 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. Portis 38 on the ground and 48 more receiving. And Randall L with those 5 receptions, including 1 on the end of a Portis pass for a touchdown.
And just last week against the Giants, Randall L didn't get 1 ball.
2nd down and 3. The ball is at the 14-yard line. And this is Betts banging his way through the middle. Scored a touchdown on a similar play last week against the Giants. Takes it to the 4-yard line. It'll be 1st down and goal.
Did you see where Lorenzo Alexander was? He's the extra offensive lineman. He's standing right up in this position here as a tight end in a bunch formation. But they're going to have him block or chip. I don't think he's going to go out and run any corner patterns from that area. But he does it all. I mean, He plays tight end, he plays bunch, he plays guard, he plays defense, he's on special teams.
We got Portis back in the game, and Portis will take the ball to about the 1.5. Brian Robinson is there, and it will be, as we tick down to 8 minutes to go in the period, 2nd down and goal.
Here's Lorenzo Alexander again, and we see that he's the point man there in bunch. And again, he's not going to fool anyone, but they want to take care of the edge out there. So they put Alexander in there and say, don't let anyone come off this edge and get to Clinton Portis. More things you can do.
And that tight formation, the Redskins have been doing this for years and years. And they'll run a pass off of it. And it's too high, intended for Cooley, but the coverage is good. As Cooley gets doubled in the end zone, it'll be 3rd down and goal.
Yeah, and that's where Todd Collins, has the experience, and like I say, he hasn't played, but he's a very, very bright quarterback. And you go play action pass, you expect them to sell out on the run, you expect the guy to be wide open. The Vikings didn't go for it, but he wasn't wide open, so Todd Collins just threw the ball away.
Halfway through the 3rd quarter. Portis behind Kozlowski in the backfield.
I think that was old Lorenzo Alexander moved on that one, I think.
False start. Number 79 offense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Twas.
It always happens. You go bragging about a guy and he's bunch, and the more things he can do with guard and tight end, and then he gets down in the goal line and jumps offside.
It's the old kibosh.
That's a kibosh. Bill Gibbs is upset. I mean, that's the thing. We always talk about discipline and what discipline is, and to me, that was always it. When you get in short yardage and goal line and those tight situations, you don't jump. You don't jump on offense. You don't jump on defense.
3rd and goal now from the 6-yard line, and the Redskins trying to get a play in here. Portis came in late, and he's going to call for a timeout. We'll talk it over. Timeout. 3rd and goal when we come back. 22-0 Redskins.
NASN brings you unrivaled coverage of the best sports North America has to offer. Get the best seats in the house for the biggest games in the best leagues 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Watch the NFL from preseason all the way to the playoffs with over 60 regular season games, the postseason, and live coverage of Super Bowl 42 from Phoenix. Get live coverage of every game of the World Series and don't miss an inning of the MLB regular season with up to 260 regular season games and the All-Star Game live. Experience the most comprehensive coverage of the NHL anywhere in Europe with over 200 live regular season games, the 2008 NHL All-Star Game, and the Stanley Cup Finals live. NASN takes you to pit lane in the high-octane world of NASCAR with live Busch Series racing and keeps you up to date with the Nextel Cup and Truck Series with daily episodes of NASCAR Now. Get courtside with the best conferences in NCAA college basketball with a packed schedule of games between the top teams and unrivaled coverage of March Madness.